All right, we're recording. We're recording.
Yay!
I got Dr. Missy Bird with me today. I don't even know what we're calling this. We're just like she
I
said, we're
like
just riffing.
spiritual M&Ms. Like
I like
Marlow,
it.
I think we really
Right?
need to go with spiritual M&Ms. I think it's really good.
I like it. I like it. Just a little bit of sweetness for your day, right?
Yes.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, and I don't know, just some things that have been on my mind, particularly with you and how you manage your life and spirituality and things like that. So, first of all, and I guess this is always when I'm asking these questions, it's kind of a reflection of self and what I'm trying to work on and what I'm trying to become.
Totally.
But how do you balance like justice and mercy? You seem like a person who's more on with me, who's more maybe more merciful than just, and try and fall on that side of the line. But justice is needed at times, and I struggle with it often, unless I'm
Mm.
angry, which isn't good, I think. So how do you balance that?
Whoa, that's a good one. I one of the things that I realized really early on is that so there's this term that is used, social justice warrior, and it's used against people who engage in the work of social justice. And I think, dang, I love being a social justice warrior. Like, I love going into battle for others, right? And for
Mhm,
myself too, right?
mhm.
And I think that there's something so fantastically fascinating about you coining this term social justice warrior as something that is disparaging. And I think a lot about um the bits of the Bible, for example, where Jesus talks about justice and about um the benefit of the whole, right? Like that we are engaging when we engage in faith that everything's going to work out. That's justice, right?
Mm.
And then to be most merciful, right? Like, it's not our job to look at a person and think, wow, you're really going to be in for it when you get up to heaven. Like, I can't wait to see what your combo is going to be like at the pearly gates.
Right, right.
That's not our job. Our job is to create open spaces full of love and connection, and and leave the criticisms to those who have way more insight than we do, right? And I think that's where people get really disconnected when we start talking about justice, because somehow they think it's our job to mete out justice. And I
Mm.
actually don't think it's our job at all, because I think there is a divine creator, God, who is way more insightful than I am in my little pea brain over
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
And so I feel like when we think about balancing justice and mercy, it's a lot about releasing the control over who's in charge,
I like that. I like that.
because we're not in charge.
I like that. So let me dial that down to your children. Like, how
Mm.
do you do that with them? Because there's boundaries that we need to create and make for them, and we try and be good about why we do that, and sometimes we're not, like, hey, just because I said so. But I want to move beyond because I said so. I want to give them the realities of why, and I want to know why I'm doing it, right? Why am I making this a
Right.
thing?
Why am I telling you you have to floss your teeth? We had that
Right.
conversation this morning because we went to the dentist. You
Because it
know,
costs a
here's
lot of money if you don't.
right. Here's the thing that I think is really fascinating about parenting that nobody tells you. And listen, I majored in early childhood development. Like, I have wanted to parent my like I always wanted to be a mama, right?
Mhm.
And my kids came to me through my husband. I couldn't have children, and so I have these three beautiful children that I am their mother. And here's where justice and mercy is so fascinating, because my oldest one, whew, she gives me a run for my money all the time. And what I have found is when I have mercy for myself as her mother, when I look at the things that she says to me and go, oh, that is not coming from a space of love.
Mhm.
Because, and then I look at it and think how complicated it is for her to love herself for the entirety of her messiness.
Mhm.
Then I think, yeah, I don't have to dish out justice for this. I do, however, have to say, hey, it really hurts my feelings when you talk to me like that.
Mhm.
I wish you could see the bright, beautiful light that you are. And I love you. And my prayer for you is that someday you will cut yourself a break and be kinder to yourself. Because that's a solid boundary. One of the things that I find so fascinating about parenting my younger two children, so that's my oldest, and then I have two others, is that they don't run with the same complications that she does. And
Right.
they are actually the ones who are dealing out mercy to me more than I'm dealing out mercy to them or justice, right? Like
Mhm.
my kids will look at me and say, you're doing fine. Stop overcomplicating this.
Mom
We're
ended up.
okay. And I'm all out of the mouths of babes. Like, okay.
Yep.
One thing I tell my clients all the time too, Marlowe, is start your day like you're four. So if you're laying in bed, if you ever noticed how 4-year-olds always have their ear up like this, it's because they're listening to spirit. They're listening to God. And they're like, huh, okay, let's try that and see what happens. If we enact our lives full of curiosity, if we wake up in the morning and instead of saying, God, I've got to do this, 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 and we woke up in the morning and said, I wonder what's going to happen today. Like we're four, because
Mhm.
that's what 4-year-olds do. 4-year-olds wake up and they're like, I wonder what's going to happen today. What's going to happen today? The
Yep.
minute we get into that space of curiosity and go, I wonder what's going to happen today, justice and mercy fly right out the window because it doesn't matter. It
I
doesn't
like
matter because we're just going to have a really fascinating day no matter what.
I like that. I try and encourage people to live like that, and I always get the pushback. I think it's just because of the space that people are in at the time, right? Just
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to live like that. I got to get up and go to work. I'm like, yeah, but you're at work for 8, 10 hours. Live in that space at work for 8 or 10. I mean,
Yeah. Be curious.
yeah, I don't know. It's
How
I,
about with your kids, though? How's that
you know,
going with yours?
I struggle with answering these questions often. I really have great kids, and I realize that they frustrate me like any parent, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I try and look back at that. My wife and I we talk, and we feel like we haven't done anything to make them the way they are, right?
Oh,
It's just that's the way they came, right? And they chose certain things. I mean, we provided space, is what we said. As you said, we've provided a home where they can explore and express and be open with us, and we're open with them about just about everything we can be.
mhm.
And I don't know, it's what they've become. I mean, it's early on, right? It's
Yeah.
early on, but it's what they are.
I love what you said, though, about how they're each like their own little unit, right? Because, and I think that's where I think we could do a better job at just, and I have a question for you that's coming up for me, but I want to say this before. One of my favorite writers, Megan Watterson, she wrote the book called Mary Magdalene Revealed. Such a
Mhm.
beautiful book. But she talks about how the body, the only reason we have a body, the sole purpose for this body is to be a vessel for the soul. And that really what we're here is to provide this body for the soul so that it can have this human experience, because that's what it's doing here. And the minute we recognize that that's what we're doing here, we can look at our kids and look at other people's kids and look at children and go, ah, I see what you're doing there. Your soul's having an experience.
Yeah,
Oh, bless you.
yeah,
Sometimes you want to be like, are you sure you really want to do that?
yeah.
But other times it's like, okay. Like if we start to recognize that our souls are just here to have this human experience, then that reconnects us to looking at our kids and being like, well, looks like looks like you're hardwired for that, whatever it is,
It
right?
is what it is.
And
Yeah,
some kids are really wired for ease, and some kids are really hardwired for struggle.
yeah.
And they grow up becoming those same exact adults.
Yep.
So I mean,
Man,
there's
it
not
took me
much
a
we can
while.
do.
Took me a while to figure that one out. Like,
Right?
wow,
Oh,
these are
hello.
just big kids. We're all big kids. That's what we are.
I tell people often, I'm like, I'm not raising children, I'm raising adults.
Yep.
I am
Yep.
not raising children. I'm
Yeah.
raising adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Okay,
that.
so here's my question for you, because I was
Yep.
thinking about this morning as I was rewriting my group program. I was rewriting one of the modules, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to talk to Marlowe about. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about surrender
Hmm.
and how you've experienced surrender in your life.
Man, it's a great question. Maybe one that I need to work on. You know, I look back at, I look at back at it as particularly being a black person in the society that we're in,
Mhm.
having to surrender pride and maybe dreams and opportunities,
Mm,
and then having to like really embrace it that you know what it is, and not to become angry with it and leaving a chip. So from that perspective, it's that has allowed me because you grow up like that. It just is what it is. It's allowed me to be humble in other aspects of my life and being willing to surrender, like in marriage, surrendering maybe what you thought things the way things should be
mhm,
and being okay with it. What
mhm.
who cares what people think or how I thought? Um, man, and I think I still struggle with that. And from the perspective of being absolutely open, I'm
Mm,
still I still hide and want to be protected because I feel vulnerable, right? And I don't
yeah.
really want to be in that space often. I feel like I'm vulnerable enough. I give you this. So I think from that perspective, I've really gained because I had to. And so some people don't get that to that point because they haven't had to surrender right like that.
Mhm.
But it's a work in progress. I'm very prideful still, but the society that I live in has forced me
Yeah.
to surrender. I was thinking just I had again, and it's such a weird. It's funny how life prepares you for adulthood if you let it. I'm looking back. I grew up in Florida. I grew up in predominantly my home was projects,
Mhm.
black folks everywhere. But I was bused to school, so I was bused to nicer schools. So and at school, I particularly hung out with white kids. I didn't really
Yeah.
realize that was what was going on until I grew up, um, which kind of prepared me for what I'm dealing with in life. It's funny.
That's
um,
interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I recall being in seventh grade, and I had friends. And one day, and I'm gonna be open here. One day, my buddy he called someone a nigger. It was like I was taken aback. I'm like, what? And it
Mm.
was a Wednesday, and I was like, what? I went home. I thought about it. Thursday, I avoided them on Thursday. I'm like, I don't even know who these guys are. Friday, I was like, my my warrior came out of me. Friday afternoon, I approached him. I'm like, man, I can't believe you said that. It wasn't about you. And I just punched the kid. I hit
Woo!
him. And I punched him a couple of times. I walked away, grabbed my backpack, and got on the bus and went home. And Monday came and I got called into the office, and not only
Mm.
the office, but I got some in the court. Like they took me to court, and I was in front of a judge about my actions. And I told the judge the same thing. And I was like, man, I said he called me that, right? I said he called me
Yeah.
that. And the judge was like, well, I don't understand that obviously, but you can't go around like hitting people because they've offended you. And he asked me to write an essay on how I would deal with that from here on because he's like more than likely it'll be something that you're going to deal with. So how will you
How are you
deal
gonna
with
do it?
it? Yeah. So I wrote out it was a big long thing about how I was going to deal with it, and it was just I just choose to not let that be something that bothers me. Right? I choose not to. So the surrender is a choice, and it doesn't just happen. I mean, even if it's forced upon you, it doesn't just happen. You really have to choose to surrender your whatever it is you're surrendering to, and then be okay with it. Like you can't surrender and be like,
Yes.
right?
What I love about what you just said, though, is like that judge, that is some wisdom. You're going to be dealing with this for the rest of your life. This is not your first rodeo, buddy.
Hmm.
So what are you gonna do?
I was so appreciative
Woo!
of that. Looking back, I was 12, 13,
Yeah,
12 or 13. So that really was early on. I mean, it's 30 years ago that I had to make that decision consciously and put it in paper. And it's at a court, like it was recorded at the courthouse. So,
yeah,
um, yeah. So it was at the time I was like, this is injustice. But looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful I ran into
yeah,
that guy instead of another judge who was like, "Ah, another black guy, get him out of here." Right.
right. Yeah, that's incredible. Talk about divine intervention.
For sure.
Yeah, I
Sure.
really love that. I love that. So good.
Great.
So
So
good.
I guess in your thought on that, what were you thinking? Are you is that something you're working on, or what are you teaching your people about surrender?
Well, I think surrender is so interesting because so this kind of, I think a lot about even like AA and stuff like that, like the you talk about in so many different spaces we talk about how we have no control, and particularly in the life coaching space. I feel like that's what that like industry is built on, is teaching people how we have no control. But I've really been thinking about this idea that we are part of the land, like we are nature, we are naturally occurring things on the planet, right? We are not
Mhm.
separate and above. I think that's where things get really screwed up, is that we somehow, humanity's like we're over here and then nature's over here, and it's like no,
Yeah.
we're like we are part of the earth. Mama Earth
Yeah.
is like here, God's greatest creation, God's
Right.
greatest creation, and we
Right.
are a piece of it. We are not separate and above it. And I've been thinking so much about this, Marlowe, because I think this is what causes a lot of disconnect for people. What if we just surrendered to the idea that because we are naturally occurring things on this planet, we are just as beautiful, just as imperfect, and just as glorious as the mountains and the rivers and the frogs and the trees and the flowers? That we are meant to be this messy, imperfect, beautifully naturally occurring thing.
I
And
love
if we
that.
surrender to the idea that we're connected to the greatest creation, then we realize that we are woven into its tapestry. We don't have to worry about controlling the outcome of anything.
I love that.
Oh,
I love
give me
it. It's
chills.
tough.
It's so
It's
good. It's so
it's tough. It's tough because we're so pride. We got this. We think right. We're able to think and contemplate these things. So
good.
yeah, I love the idea of surrender, and it's probably has, and it kind of goes into something I wanted to talk to you about anyway. So I appreciate you kind of bringing that up. But I love the idea of surrendering to just life.
Yes.
I this happened to me the other morning. I had to walk out the door just to make sure I'm experiencing it like I thought. I'm like, man, we're alive. I looked in the mirror. I'm like, I'm life. Like this is happening, right? This is
Yes.
beautiful. Like, I just walked outside for a minute, it was a little drizzly, I'm like, "This is life. Life is
Yes.
happening. We should just enjoy it," and, the bills start happening, but just enjoy it. Between the bills, those 30 days, enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Every
absolutely.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Um, this has something to do with more, I guess, the traditions in our beliefs, right?
Mhm.
Um, as far as again, this is looking at, I coming from a perspective of a rebel. That's who you are, I know. So how do you deal with so the difference between the traditions and the doctrines of like your set of beliefs, right? You
The
have
Episcopal Church.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and then then I want to clarify because you have the doctrine, which and what I look at as doctrine, like the 10 commandments, that would be doctrine. Like
Mhm.
the Sabbath day, it says honor it. That's a doctrine. But then you got the traditions of like, for instance, the Jews had it where you had to count how many days you walked on the Sabbath. Like that's a tradition, right?
Mhm.
So how do you first of all, how do you balance your ideals, like your personal beliefs with the beliefs and traditions and the doctrines of the church? Like how do you deal
Mm.
with how do you ride that wave without just being like, I'm done. I'm gonna go be in the woods because I mean it's cool. There's life
Well,
there. But
listen, Jesus loves the wilderness. Come on now.
he does.
Yeah.
I know, but he was with the
Um,
masses. He was here to serve.
um, oh, such a good question. So I did not come to Christianity lightly. I came kicking and screaming and
Mm-hmm.
literally like, no. Just for everyone who's listening to this and follows us, I grew up in Utah,
Mm-hmm.
not Mormon. We were Mormon until we were LDS until I mean, I got baptized in the church, but I only did it because my friends did, and I was like, well, that's what you do,
That's
right?
what you do. Yeah.
Um, but I didn't go to church, and I didn't believe in the church. I also uh, nobody in a million years could have ever told me I was going to be up on a pulpit in a church preaching on Sundays ever. A lot of the experiences I had as a bisexual feminist
Mm-hmm.
woman, which, um, like I didn't, I got really damaged by a lot of the things about the church. And I will say that, and when I say the church, I mean the LDS church.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, Marlo, I also learned do unto others as you would have done to you. I learned love thy neighbor as thyself. And it's not because I went to church, but it's because that was the culture I was raised in.
Mm-hmm.
And I held those things. I learned how to give back to my community. I learned how to volunteer. I learned those things because that is what the LDS church stands for at its core. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the other things that have happened in the church are messy and ugly and gross, just like they are in the Episcopal church.
Right.
What happened, the way I reconcile this love of God is one of the things I really came to about a year and a half after I started going to the Episcopal church. And I did go in kicking and screaming. Like my daughter was like, I want to go to church. And I'm like, I'm not going to church. Like I'll set on fire when I go to church. I'm not going to church. And then I walk into this sanctuary and gorgeous Phyllis, she's so lovely, is our little greeter. She's so beautiful. This little old lady hands us our rolls and our little bag of welcome. And,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, and I cried. And every Sunday for 3 months, I walked into that church and sobbed like a baby. And I'm not talking quiet sobbing either, Marlo. Like I was like disruptive sobbing. Like I'm like, what is happening to me? She was like, you guys calm down. And I'm like, yeah.
Awesome.
Getting baptized and doing communion. I'm all right. But what I love about it is I started to realize that God made me. This goes back to nature, right? To the Mother
Mm-hmm.
Earth. God made me exactly who I am. Exactly. As a witch and a healer and a prophet and a preacher and a woman and a bisexual, like all these things that I am. God made me just like this. Well, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is my truth, then how do I spread that truth to other people? How do I help people see that we are made exactly in his image? Because if God is love and we are made in his image, then we are love. And there is no other truth but that fact. If God is love and we are made in God's image, then we are love. Love.
I love it.
And that is how I reconcile every single day of my life. I think, well, if you have given me this life and I am here to live it and have this experience as this body with this soul, then how can I listen to the messages that I receive from Spirit so that I can move forward in my life from the Holy Ghost and the Holy Spirit? And Mother Mary, God, I love Mary. She's
Man,
such my favorite.
I love what you said there is the idea of just finding that you have love from a creator, right?
Yeah.
That's real and that is actually touching you. Um,
Woo.
yeah, I that your experience kind of remind me when I was out on my mission. We had this gentleman that we were teaching. He was a one of the councilmen in Detroit at the time on the city council. Kind of just very secular guy, whatever. And we were just trying to teach him about the spirit and how it touches, and that's how who really teaches us. And it isn't these missionaries who's out here knocking on your doors. And he just didn't get it. We came back the second time, and I was frustrated. I'm like, I don't get. How can we reach this guy? That was my mind, right?
Yeah, that's your
I remember,
mind,
yeah. I
not your
just opened
spirit.
up the scripture, and I'm like, I don't know. I just opened up a random scripture in the intent of getting out of this house, just reading something, slam it, and getting out of here. I did that. I will close my scriptures and I look up and he's over there just sobbing. And he's like, what is this I'm feeling? I was like, what the world? I was like, wow, and I was like, that's what we're talking about. Like,
Mhm.
there's nothing we can say to help you understand that connection until you connect. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people miss when they start talking about Christianity, Marlowe,
Mhm.
is it is not my job to force you to see it. It's my job to see it myself.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in that, then I am so grounded and raised up all at the same time. And that helps other people be grounded and raised up all at the same time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I'm just thinking about a quote from C.S. Lewis. He talks about how there's no ordinary, you've never met an ordinary person. It's like we're all
Yes.
gods and goddesses, whatever you want to call that. That he's like, we're all eternal. We have this life that will live on forever. So he's like, people we snub, people we marry, people, all those things. Is like those are eternal beings that you,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing that to or with. That, and I love that's how I kind of keep myself, I guess, in good graces with people. I hope that the little bit of time that we have here will expand 10,000 years from now when we really have time to
Yeah.
do that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love
Back to
C.S.
you.
Lewis. The Screw Tape Letters is one of my favorite
Mhm.
books.
Yeah, I love that. When I picked him up, I grabbed, I think I read 3 or 4 of his books. Just a great thoughts,
Yeah, I love
great
C.S.
thoughts,
Lewis.
great mind. It's awesome. Awesome. Was that my question or yours?
That was yours.
Okay.
I don't think I have any. I really
Yeah,
want to talk
yeah,
to you about surrender, so I'm really good.
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel I feel really good about my questions.
Well, I feel good about what we've discussed today. So maybe we can just leave it there. And
I think so.
I like where it went.
Me too. I'll see
Well,
you
I
again
appreciate
next
this.
week.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on and spending a little bit of time with me. Let me know if you need
Appreciate you,
anything.
Marlo.
You're welcome.
M&Ms, so good.
Love it. You have a good week.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.